Welcome to It Starts at Vegas, the podcast where holistic health meets modern living. I'm Emily, your guide to unlocking the power of the vagus nerve, which is your body's ultimate key to calm, connection, and overall well being. Together, we'll explore simple ways to nourish your mind and body with natural remedies, actionable tips, and empowering stories. Whether you're here to reduce stress, restore balance, or take charge of your health, you're in the right place. Because wellness doesn't just happen. It starts at Vegas. Let's dive in. Merry Christmas Eve! Or is it Happy Christmas Eve? But I'm pretty sure it's Merry Christmas Eve. Let's talk about how the Grinch stole Christmas. That movie is a staple for me. It was when I was growing up, and it still is. And now I can't help but wonder if all the Grinch needed was a good old vagus nerve reset and support. Kind of follow me with this. Let's evaluate it. First, the Grinch was isolated and didn't like any noise. Second, he wasn't social, so that social engagement wasn't there. And three, he was really prone to anger. So let's unfold this. Let's see if this is all the Grinch really needed to support how he felt throughout day to day. So first of all, the Grinch's isolation and dislike of noise. So early in the movie, the Grinch was kind of shown as being grumpy and kind of by himself, kind of like a little hermit. He just didn't like to be around people, even though there were people, the Whoville, that loved Christmas. They had singing and celebrations, like they went all out. But he chose to live far away from them on that mountain with his dog Max. So his chronic isolation most likely started when his vagus nerve wasn't calmed down and his social engagement wasn't priority. He's just like, nope, my brain says I'm not so sure about this. I don't like it. So let's just step back and be by ourselves. So the vagus nerve was just like, not so much, even though when the vagus nerve is socially engaged, it wants to connect with people. It likes those social times. But he didn't have any of that. He didn't have any of the practice of day to day. He just kept all by himself. So likely if he would have taken a few moments and done that vagus nerve reset, that little exercise. Again, if you want to do this by yourself, it's in the show notes. Just go ahead and click on it and it'll email to you. But if he would have taken that moment and he could have even like hummed along with the Who's and it would have calmed his nervous system. And instead he just fed it. He kept feeding that anxiety. He kept complaining and grumping, and he just fed this cycle of his desire to be away from people. Which brings us into the second part, his lack of social engagement. The social engagement piece with a vagus nerve, it's like a key point of saying the vagus nerve is settled, it's calm, it's working correctly. That's how you know that your body's not stuck in that fight or flight response. When you feel engaged and that you want to go meet people, you want to hang out with your favorite people, go do things, you kind of get that itch to try something new. That's usually when everything in your body is saying, hey, we're fine, we're calm, relaxed, everything is doing great. There's no fear of survival. So go ahead, just enjoy life. But his response, his default to stress was to hide, to take it away. He didn't have the desire to be around people, which made it even harder for him to say, yes, I can. Because once you start taking away that social engagement, it's not practicing anymore. And now it's harder to connect. And that's why it becomes easier and easier to just tuck yourself in a blanket and hide away from the world, because it takes that much more energy to engage it. So often when we have poor vagal tone, that can make it harder for us to feel safe in social situations. That's where we like to kind of hide and step back, which kind of leads to more avoidance and more distrust. And if the Grinch had try doing some vagal nerve exercises like deep breathing, or even let's just talk about like Max. Okay, so he had his dog Max, right? But he didn't really like enjoy Max. Like Max was there and he was with him, but he didn't really play with Max. And at the end, you can see that because at the end, Max is all happy and they're working together versus, beginning and middle of the movie, Max is kind of like an employee. So the relationship even changes even through the movie. And so, had the Grinch taken, even more eye contact with Max, that might have softened his heart and been more okay with the Whoville, the Who's, maybe a little earlier. Maybe they would have had just a calmer feeling. Because, when you get, after a while, when things build up and build up and build up, the littlest things just like set you off because that pressure is so high. And if he would have taken time to be with Max, that might have lowered it down. So he might have, enjoyed the distance of the Whoville city. Because let's be honest, he had a really nice view of the Whoville city. I'm sure it was beautiful. It was all decorated with lights and decorations, and I'm sure it was probably stunning, but he never took that time to enjoy it. He never paused in the moment. He just looked at all the grumpy things, which led to his reactivity and anger and the Grinch. And he was set off by when the Who sang, and he wanted to fix the problem. He did want to fix the problem. And his solution to the problem was to steal Christmas to silence them. That was his whole solution. It wasn't that he hated Christmas. He didn't like the busyness, the buzziness, the noise, noise, noise. He just wanted it quiet. And it's probably because he was so on edge that he knew that when it was quiet, that's when he could calm down. But that fight or flight mode got him to think kind of illogically. He's like, I'm gonna steal Christmas because that'll save the problem. Like, that'll be the solution. And I mean, obviously, it wasn't. At the end, he realizes it wasn't about all the noise and all the gifts. He tried to steal Christmas because in his mind, in his fight or flight response, he was thinking, oh, I'll just steal Christmas by stealing all their presents. All their presents will keep them from being happy. And meanwhile, the Who's are singing. And as we've talked about before, singing helps your vagus nerve have a great tone, and then it works properly, and you feel better, you feel happier, you want to be with other people. And our episode of we talked about Christmas traditions, every Christmas the Whovilles would get together, again, that social engagement, and they would hold hands, which is that physical touch, which is a community that we belong, and they would sing. And all of those things add up to feeling belonged, to having your vagus nerve relaxed and toned and working properly, working calmly. So now the emotions can settle down, your thoughts start being clearer, and you just become overall happier. And we see that by the end of the movie. We see the Grinch, all of a sudden, he does feel happy. Everything changes in his world. And it just makes me think, like, obviously, it's a cartoon. But what would happen if the Grinch would have just taken time to do some deep breathing and taken time to just enjoy the little things, be grateful for what he has? If he wanted to start singing with the Who's, all those little things just add up, and it just makes me wonder, like, what could happen. Now, obviously, it's a cartoon. It's a great movie. The movie would be lost if it was done the quote unquote right way. But it makes us be able to apply that to our lives, saying, am I a Grinch right now? Do I feel Grinchy? Do I need time to just stop, breathe, just sit in the moment and realize what's important? And so that's what I hope we take away from the Grinch. And I know that it's a lot, like the main focus of the Grinch is, it's not about presents, but we can also learn from the Grinch that self-care can go a long way too. Here's some things that if the Grinch would have come to me and asked, what can I do? Here are some things that I would have suggested for him to calm his vagus nerve down. One, the humming or singing. Singing with the Who's would have directly stimulated his vagus nerve and helped bring him joy, which is kind of the start where he starts feeling that warmth and joy in him. And he starts feeling that it's more than just presence. And so that, again, singing or humming, that really helps. The second one is paying attention to his pet. And we kind of talked about spending more time with Max could have improved his vagal tone through connection and touch and just a relationship between the two. And then third, practice gratitude, listing the things that he liked. Maybe he liked living up in his cave. He did have a beautiful view. Maybe that would have changed his nervous system from being in a fight or flight to engaging his parasympathetic nervous system, which is like the calm down, we're not in danger. So all in all, that's probably what I would have told him. I would have said, just enjoy the little moments. And it sounds so easy and sounds so simple. And sometimes it sounds a little like basic or overused. But the reason that is, it's because they work. So we keep going to our default on what works. So all in all, the Grinch's story is a great example of how isolation and stress can disconnect us. But with some little intentional doings to help that vagus nerve calm down, we can find joy and connection with others. So have a Merry Christmas, everyone. Go get some rest and enjoy your friends and family. Thanks for listening to It Starts at Vegas. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you're ready to take the next step toward calm, grab my free Vagus Nerve Reset video in the show notes. It's a quick and easy way to start feeling better today. And until next time, remember, wellness starts at Vegas.